we have a tremendous number of water bottles,
Right.
which are recyclable, by the way, and should be. They are not recycled most of the time, partly because it's very uneconomic to do so. It's not like recycling office paper where you actually can make money from the waste paper. We lose money when we recycle plastic bottles, so they really haven't done it. Now, one of the efforts is, I know Maria's been involved in this, is trying to get people to drink out of the water fountains, to not just buy bottled water, which tends to be very expensive and produces all this waste that you quite often, what is it, like 96% or 98% of all of those bottles never get recycled?
Yeah, and even though there's starting to be more bins around campus, students are still throwing them away because of lack of education, lack of visibility of where the bins are, or they don't know what goes in there, or sometimes it's full and it's not being taken out. And the blame a lot of time, I feel, gets put on the students for not knowing how to do it. But you know, if there's no education component that goes along with your program, and it's just there's a service being provided, it's not going to function correctly. So.
It's key. Actually, all the things we've talked about, the key is education. And isn't that what the university is supposed to be good at? So we really need to redo how we educate people, how to be more environmental, how to be reducing waste, how to be more efficient, and at the same time, trying to save the university money.
Right.
Because it doesn't provide them money, is that right?
Pardon me?
If they recycle paper and cardboard, does that provide them money?
It changes according to the market. Right now, you can get paid a fair amount of money for waste paper. The more streamlined the source, like if you were to separate newspapers from office paper, you get more money for it than if you mingle them all together.
Another thing that we could do is buy post-consumer recycled paper and other goods to promote the market for recyclables.
Very good point. It's the most crucial thing we can do that encourages and promotes recycling. And we do have some policies for buying post-consumer waste products, but it needs to be comprehensive and it needs to be more done throughout the campus.
Have you seen any successful examples of composting or using the organic waste? I mean, we have so many cafeterias and food waste here. Some sort of way to harness that.
Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. Our cafeteria has an all-you-can-eat policy that, first of all, encourages people to eat more than they should. So you get more overweight students and faculty and staff. Also dramatically increase the amount of food waste because it's all you can eat, and if you take more, it's free. So we really, I think, need to change that. We have had a pilot project several times in the past to compost that. And I understand we are starting to do that now. There's a student project to take some of the food waste and turn it into compost that then can be used for landscaping, which is a very good organic fertilizer when it's used appropriately. So that's a great idea. We would even like to see, we actually have the planning for a huge composting project that we may be able to implement in the next 5 years, but we really need to have students and faculty to promote that and get behind it.
Yeah, and there's also, just in terms of plastics and aluminum, all of the things that the kitchens use, we're going to start getting bins in there.
In the kitchens.
In the Starbucks, and the Pollo Tropical, and the cafeteria, because there's a lot that they just go to the back and dump it in the dumpsters. There's no recycling bins there. And even just outside of the food fresh area, everything's disposable, you know, versus using real plates and real silverware that they'll just wash over.
Or at least compostable. Some universities have compostable plates that then become part of the composting operation and don't create solid waste.
It's plastic and styrofoam that they're still...
Right.
Or the idea of charging a lower price if you bring your own coffee mug and you get a cup of coffee versus
right.
or any
Certainly the
like
Starbucks on campus should be doing that. Okay, let's go ahead and look at a few more things on buildings. Okay, guys, let's talk about electricity use on campus. That's the second major cause of greenhouse gas emissions on the campus. We have a tremendous number of buildings on the campus, a very large campus. We have a tremendous use of lighting and air conditioning. Those are the two largest users of electricity on the campus. Although we do have a fair amount of office equipment and computers, et cetera, that also are part of that. Now, one of the problems is in this room. This is a classroom that has been left, absolutely no class in here, no students in here, but the lights are fully on, the air conditioning is fully on. If you come in here on a Saturday or a Sunday, the very same thing may occur. The air conditioning will be running full throttle and the lights will be left on all the time. Now, we have some classrooms where the university has done a better job. They have motion sensors which will cut the lights off if there's absolutely no movement in the room. And those work somewhat, although many of them are not being maintained and are not functioning as well as they were 6 or 8 years ago. So we need to do two things. We need to put in, where we can, even more efficient lighting, but we need to make these motion sensors so when it's not being used, the lights go off. And we also need to educate, particularly faculty, turn the lights off when you leave a room. Even if that light is off only 2 minutes, that saves electricity, reduces pollution. And that's also true with some of the equipment in the room. We need to have a campaign on campus, turn it off, turn it off. And of course, it's very wasteful to be air conditioning when nobody is using the classroom or any other building on campus.
I had a question about standby, because I think part of the problem is, well, somebody's going to come in here in the next hour, or students are going to be warm, you know, in South Florida. And I think we tend to do the same things at home. Well, you know, if you have it plugged in, there is standby electricity, so it is being wasted. And
Yes.
I don't think that enough people know about that or understand the concept that we are still
Well,
wasting.
particularly with the lights. The lights, even if they're off, like I say, for 1 or 2 minutes, that's saving some energy. And the next faculty member comes in, they turn the light on. Now, air conditioning, you can't really run that where you turn it off for 5 minutes. That doesn't work. But it should be turned off for the entire weekend when the facility is not going to be used. And I think that's a major, by the way, that is a major place where we can reduce university operating costs, is by figuring out how to reduce air conditioning in times where the campus is not fully open or operational. There's some trailers that during the break time between semesters for 2 weeks were left on 65 degrees with the air conditioner running full blast with nobody anywhere around, and that's of course the extreme wastefulness.
Now with the room scheduling and things like that, would they be able to work a timer, like, okay, this light shuts off at 12 to 2 because there's no one teaching at that time? Or is that
It's not, the problem with it, all you got to do is you have some kind of interrupted service timer off, and then it's off at the wrong time, and then the person doesn't know how to override it. So I think it's better to have occupancy sensors that detect that somebody's in the room. Now, they have to be done right so that if the class is just sitting there quietly, they don't go off.
right?
But there are ways to do that, and they are working on doing that. Okay, let's go see the library.
That's for the project.
There we go. Okay, all right, let's just make a quick thing here. That's pretty good. You can see the lighting looks pretty good. Okay, just let me know when. Okay. And as you can see, it took a minute or two to figure out how we can turn the lights off, but you can get in the habit of it and leave it like this when the classroom is not being occupied. saving significant amounts of electricity and even reducing the air conditioning because the lighting causes heating of the room, which then requires more air conditioning. All right, going back to recycling, here's an example of some recent progress. Here we are outside the library, and we've got a bin, and this is for recycling bottles and cans, and it says very clearly on there what it is. It also shows that it's got the recycling emblem. So with an educational program, people will actually start making use of this. It's a busy spot. There's lots of bottles and cans in this area. And maybe this can really be progress as we try to get more and more of the bottles and cans and paper recycled on this campus.
Is that a problem, though, with mixing different types of glass, different types of plastics, and aluminum and everything else?
Ideally, they should be separated.
Right. I mean,
but from a practical point of view, there are not enough bottles and cans, and they are easy to separate.
And it's going to depend on
who does it go to? That's what I'm saying.
Service provider, what they want to do.
Service providers now, and the student suggestion for now to have a service provider that will accept commingled materials.
Right.
Because what's happened in the past is that if they get a service provider that needs it all separated and someone throws in the wrong thing, it ends up being a cost.
Yeah.
So once education happens and the students are more aware, then to go to a tri-bin system or something like that.
Okay, let's go look at the inside of the library for a minute and we'll finish up. All right, here we are in the library, and this is a place where there should be a much better management of the energy use. Not only for the lighting, as I've already mentioned, we need to have whole areas shut off that are not open late for students. The areas where they are working late, the students are doing research and using the library, obviously they need to stay open. The other thing that happens in the library is there's a lot of computer access, and so they spend a lot of time on the computers. So the students in the library, there's a lot of use of computers. One of the problems is at non-peak hours, a lot of the computers are not being used. They're sitting there and their monitors are on and they don't go into any kind of sleep mode. And so they need to be reprogrammed so that they will go into sleep mode after a minute or two of non-use. It's also important that at night, overnight, they actually be turned off and be rebooted. As far as they know, they leave them on all night. They use the energy use for both the monitor and the hard drive, when in fact they could be booted up every morning as they start again. That would significantly reduce the electricity use as well as reducing the air conditioning because you're not getting the heat from the monitors. And so again, all those things need to be reduced, certainly in all the buildings, but certainly the library is a good example. Reduce the lighting, reduce the air conditioning a little bit during the night, and reduce the office equipment, particularly the computers. Any questions?
Have there been any efforts to maybe let the students know to turn off the monitors at least, or?
As far as I know, the students have gotten no instructions. The staff who would go around at sort of late in the day or in the off-peak hours that would be responsible for this, I don't think there's been any effort to get them to go around and turn off at least the monitors because they are the most electricity consuming.
So it goes back to education.
Again, back to educating all of us to operate equipment, operate buildings, and maintain the landscaping in a more environmentally sustainable way. And then perhaps we can move this campus to be more of a model of minimizing waste, increasing efficiency, saving money, and becoming a more environmentally sustainable campus. Okay, thanks for coming.